So first, the reform components. Reform consists mainly of three separate applications. The first would be the designer, which is how you create overlays and configure what the document is actually going to do, whether it's going to go to a printer, a device such as faxing or email, or whether it's just going to be saving a file. The second application is the Spooler Application. What this does is this actually does the processing. It runs typically as a service, so that when data is created, it interprets it, applies the correct overlay to it, and actually delivers it to the correct location. The third component is the print driver or the LPD server, depending on which system you're coming from. This allows users to print from a Windows system, whether it's coming from like Microsoft Word or any other application. The LPD server allows for data to come from the Unix system or AS400 through a print queue, so they would just add a printer just like they normally would. And what this does is it will capture the data, and if it's coming from Windows, it can also capture the image. Like I said, for Microsoft Word, a lot of your information may be graphical, and this has the ability to take that image and use that to create the output. Let me just check this. Now, when you go to your Start menu, if you have Reform installed, if you go to Start, Programs, Reform Enterprise version 12, here you can see a lot of the shortcuts for this. You have the Designer, which is your first component, the Spooler, which is the second one that does the processing, and then you have the Install wizard for the print driver. So first I'm just going to open the Designer. And it's going to ask me for my registration. And this is the Reform Designer. This is basically where you create your overlay and match the data stream to it. Well, you'll find most of the general ideas behind 12 are very similar to 11. A few changes and improvements. So basically what we have here is you have two layers. You have your design layer, which would be like the graphical overlay of your document. And then you have the text layer, which is where you'll see your data stream if you open the text file. So what Reform does is it takes your data stream, whether it's coming from AS400 or Windows, takes that data and merges it with the overlay so that you get your graphical view. So what we're going to do, if you have Reform installed, or if not, you can just simply watch and follow along. We're just going to go to File, Open. And here I've selected, I believe, everything that the installer had, so I have a large amount of forms that are already created. So I'm just going to open one of these. So when I open this form, it also asks me if I want to open the associated text file. I'm just going to click yes for now, and I guess in a little while we'll go into how it opens the text file. So basically here I have my design layer, which is my graphical view of this document. So if I was to print this document, it would look exactly how you see it now. You have the ship to, and you can see if I click on this, the text here, it creates a little highlighted box. It also selects it in this object list. This object list is just a list of everything on your form. So some of this data here is static, while some of this comes from your data stream. So if we're looking at this graphical view, we could see we have a PO number, and it's 00023. Now if I go to my text layer, which is just my data stream, this is what it would look like if I was printing from this type of application from Windows. You can see I have my order number and my data, the date, and other information here. And what we have the ability to do is everything we have these like highlighted boxes over, all this text is actually brought to the design layer, so that as the text changes from your data, the text on the design layer will change as well. So here we can see HGC Heavy Equipment is the company it was sold to. On my design layer, you see the exact same text. Now let's see if this says, okay, so this document, or this data stream, actually has multiple pages. If I go to page 2, you can see the customer here is Charlton Lumberyard. And when I go back to my design layer, you can see the ship to information has adjusted to that text here. So you can actually view exactly what the document is going to look like with your data stream and your overlay. Now, if I wanted to add something else to this overlay, I could simply do that by using the toolbar at the top of the screen here. You have the ability to add shapes, images, text, as well as barcodes. So if I want to add a shape, I could just click on this down arrow here and select the type of shape that I want to add. So if I want to add just a polygon, or if I want just a square, and then I can also, on the right side here, we have this properties box. So I drew a square here, but for instance, if I wanted to change this, I could change the property of this shape. So I'm going to change this to maybe a circle. So everything on this form has this list of properties for it. The majority of them are similar for everything, about height, the width, the position. Depending on the type of object, it will have different properties. Like the shape has different properties than the text. Now if I want to add my text here, I could click on this text box and just drag. And now you see I have new text added to my form. Over here on the properties, I can now change the text that it displays. If I click on these three little dots on this button here, it brings up a window for me to type in my text. So here I'm just going to type in my company name, and I can change the size of this. Now when I print this document, it'll have this text printed along with it, and this is going to be static. It's not going to change with my data stream. Now if I wanted to put something on my data, or on my printed document from my data stream, what I would do is go to my text layer. Here I see all the information from my print stream, and let's say I wanted to put maybe the telephone number. So again, I would do the same process. I would click on the button for the text box and just drag a box around the telephone number. So you can see here, now I have this shaded kind of green colored box over this text. When I go back to my design layer, you'll see it's actually right here. Has the letter T and the telephone number, just like the data stream. So now I can move this to anywhere on the form that I want it to fit, and probably right about here is okay. Now, you'll notice that since this is coming from my data stream, when I go to page 2, the telephone number changes. On page 2, it's 6315 it ends with, and page 1, it's 1313. So if I do the same thing on my design layer, if I go to page 2, you can see the telephone number changes, but the static text that we added to the top here, where it says my company name, does not. Any questions so far about just adding text and adding objects to your form?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Does everybody understand the idea that the design layer is basically like your graphical view or your overlay, while the text layer is your data stream? Or any questions about that?
Yes.
Okay. We also have the ability to add barcodes, whether it's a typical barcode where you can change the type of it again. Here it is, barcode type. There's various different barcodes you can use. And there's also, this barcode might look a little bit strange, but this is custom to our form. We call this the tag doc barcode, and we might talk about this a little bit more later. So that's the first component that we're going to talk about reform, is this designer. Now, just like a lot of other applications, you can change the font and other things like that to design the form how you would like it to look.